This is the Victory Sports Network's NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley, streaming live across all social media platforms, including X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and the Urban Edge Network. This program each and every week made possible with the support of Huddle. Huddle provides VSN access to the biggest games on the NAIA schedule every week. We just make a request to the home team, receive access, and boom, you get the full coaches video from Huddle. Break down the best games in NAIA football. NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley also streams on the Urban Edge Network. Urban Edge Network providing access to the best games in the NAIA every week. Download the app now via your app store. Watch it on your TV, phone, or tablet. Urban Edge Network leading the way with access to NAIA events and championships. And as always, a reminder, the views expressed on this program are from myself and Pat Donley. They do not reflect the views of the NAIA or any of its member institutions. All right, folks, it's time. Let's have a show.
NAIA football is the true version of what college football is supposed to be. And it is the best classroom experience an 18 to 22-year-old male can have. One of the most valuable parts of a college education is that experience. It's life in a microcosm, and it's just something special for a young man to have to experience.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
This is NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. Thank you so much for joining us for our last show in September. Holy cow, the NAIA football season is starting to fly by, but we had another weekend of great games. Momentarily joining me will be Pat Donley. We'll break down the featured games and some of the other big games in NAIA football this week, plus going over what's happening next weekend as well, and our little segment that we like to throw out there called For the Love of the NAIA. It's at the end of the program in the overtime segment. If you've got stories to share about some crazy stuff that happened to you while you were playing in the NAIA, hey, let us know. You can DM us on Twitter. Send us an email to mail@victorysportsnetwork.com. With that said, let's get going. Let's get through some of these first games here, and then I'll bring Pat in to talk a little bit more about what happened in the world of NAIA football. Give some love to Faulkner. 3-1 to start the season. They get a win over Union Commonwealth, 41-15. Eli Moore, 10-17 passing for 90 yards. Robin Harris, 19 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Bethel, Kansas, coming back late. Trayvon Madison, 9-yard touchdown pass with 6 seconds left to win the game for the Threshers, 38-37. That's a nice win for Bethel in the KCAC. Primetime performer Trevin Madsen, wide receiver, Bethel, 12 catches, 119 yards, plus he had 3 touchdown grabs as well. St. Ambrose, they played Grandview, and Grandview did Grandview things, 63-3, 585 to 138 in total yardage. Jackson Waring, 13-22 for 314 yards and 5 touchdowns. Benedictine did much of the same. After Peru State jumped out to a little bit of an advantage in the first quarter, 10-7, Benedictine laid it on him in the second quarter, put up 35. 606 total yards to 479. Tanner Zimmerman, 5 receptions, 134 yards. Titan Osborne, 3 receptions for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game. Our primetime performer going to Jackson Dooley of Benedictine, 15 of 26 for 359 yards. He had 4 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown in this one. Mid-American Nazarene struggles, but they come away with a victory over Missouri Baptist, 41-39. Samuel Gonzalez, 8 receptions, 148 yards. Zane Hall, 7 catches, 119 yards, and a touchdown. Morningside, they got up on Hastings in this game, but Hastings hung around with them late in this game. The Mustangs come away with a 41-31 victory. Total yardage about even between the two teams. Chevalier, 33 of 45 for 381 yards and 4 touchdowns. But our primetime performance goes to Lennox Brown. 10 receptions, 116 yards, had himself 2 touchdowns in this game to help the Mustangs go on to another victory. Look at that. You start counting out Tabor College losing close games, and what do? They knock off a team that's undefeated. 28-19. Ahmad Bailey, 22 of 34 for 223 yards, 4 touchdowns. Cameron Collier, 97 yards rushing in this game as the Blue Jays knock off the previously undefeated Kansas Wesleyan Coyotes. Evangel blanked by Friends. Tell you what, the Falcons are rolling through their opponents thus far this year. Adarian Sykes, 16 carries, 154 yards. Cavante Baker, 72 yards passing, had a touchdown, and 60 yards rushing in this one. Primetime player, let's give it to Ahmad Bailey, quarterback for Tabor. Getting the victory, throwing for 4 touchdowns and 223 yards. Great performance by Bailey and the Blue Jays to knock off a previously undefeated team. Dickinson State, Montana Western. This one went kind of the way we thought it would. 41-21 win for Montana Western. Montana Western knocked Dickinson State's starting quarterback out of the game. Palandry, 376 yards, 5 touchdowns, 23 yards rushing. Seth Shook, 124 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. Dakota State winning by margin of getting a safety? Yeah. Southern Oregon travels to Madison, South Dakota, and things don't go well for them. Trojans come away with an 11-10 victory. Trey Haddock, 21 of 32, 262 yards. Preston Iverson, 18 yards rushing, 75 yards receiving, and a score. Our primetime performer, Eli Norse, back in that Montana Western game, had 199 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. A nice game for Mr. Norse. Come away with Montana Western. And with that said, we take this opportunity to bring in the actual brains of the game, the guy that knows a lot more about the game of football because he coached it for over 20 years, Mr. Pat Donley. Pat, good lineup of first games that we went through there. And in that last slide, I had Montana Western, Dickinson State. Montana Western gets the win, top 25 win for them, albeit, but kind of the way we thought that one would go.
Yeah, I want you to repeat that again for my wife. The brains. Yeah, don't hear that very often. Anyway, Montana Western, they kind of fly under the radar a little bit for that one loss to Montana Tech. It's like I kind of think they're like they haven't been forgotten about the last 2 years, and like everyone's kind of just like kind of slowly going through, kind of quietly going through the schedule, and I'm betting they're going to be there in the end. I just have a feeling.
100%, yeah.
And
it kind of reminds me of a couple years ago where Montana Western really flew under the radar for most of the regular season. I think it was when Palandry was, I think it was 2 years ago. Most of the season, they kind of flew under the radar, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, wait, they knocked off this team. They knocked off this team. They got things going to get to the postseason. So I'd agree with you. Nobody's forgot about them, but they're just kind of there right now, and they're doing Montana Western things. If anything I saw from that game, and I just look at things, from 100 yards away view of it, Dickinson State loses their starting quarterback in that game. They're playing a lot of the game with a backup quarterback. Montana Western's defense still gives up 21 in that game. I think that's a game where your defense has got to really, step up, put your foot on them, not let them get the 21. I mean, they win comfortably 41-21, but in that conference, that defense is going to have to, step up and get after it.
Yeah, I would agree. And then the craziness of the KCAC. My goodness. Friends are probably the most unfriendly group of people I've seen. They are kicking the crap out of people, Jason.
Yeah.
They are head and shoulders, the cream of the crop in that league, no question. But what about everybody else? Where we go from there with K-Dub dropping yesterday to Tabor, which Friends just beat Tabor by a bunch of scores last week.
Mm-hmm.
Evangel, we had high hopes for them in a really, really, 2-week stretch of good football that they played, and then they get blanked by Friends. So, I mean, just trying to wrap your brain around the thing. I mean, if you had told me, I think Friends wins that game against Evangel. We talked about it a little bit last week. Certainly not that score. I think Evangel's a pretty good football team and a physical football team, and I just didn't see that happening. Didn't get a chance to watch that game. I'm kind of curious if it's a blowout. of what happened, if there was some schematic issues or tackling issues or whatever it was, because Friends did whatever they wanted to do.
Well, and I'm not here to make excuses for Evangel, but you have a big game against Southwestern that you win on the road, and then you go to home. You play a very tough McPherson team in a physical game as well, and then the next week you play Friends at Friends, and just the schedule back to back to back like that. You just wonder if it just was too much this week too soon, and give them a little time to heal up, because they were playing in physical football games, but also not to take anything away from Friends. I think they're just showing right now they're head and shoulders above everybody else in that league right now. I mean, they've got some tough games on their schedule still, and we'll talk about some of those coming up. But right now, for what they've played and who they've gone up against, no one has been able to go up against them.
I'm just going to say this, Jason. I'm not saying they're the best team in the country. They are the most difficult to prepare for in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm serious when I tell you that. There is not a coaching staff in this affiliation that wants any part of that. I'm just going to tell you. And the teams in the KCAC, I guarantee, spend all off season, preparing and have a simple plan for it, because you can't get very complex against it. It's assignment based. It is very challenging. I mean, we heard, Coach Woodley last year talking about Grandview having to play against that offense, and it was like, talk about drawing the short end of the stick there, the short straw, to play them in round one. Essentially, I guess they had the bye week, and then that first official round of the playoff of getting Friends, and they're like, talk about falling the sword on that one. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was difficult. And that's probably the most competitive anyone's been against Grandview in 2 years. Let's be honest. I mean, it might have been Benedictine.
Benedictine this year. This year.
But
that's that was, we knew that one coming in.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Friends is no joke. They're kicking the crap out of people's feet.
Yes, they are. Hey, let's get into our featured games here. Another good one from last night, and this was a huge win for Dordt University and their football program. They were 0-18 lifetime against the Red Raiders. I had predicted last week that I thought they'd get the win. I thought we'd maybe see another score separating these two, but Dordt really had a battle in this one. In the first half, they go down 17-0. Noah Strickfaden in this ball game did not have a very good first half. In fact, a lot of people probably would have thought, when you see a quarterback go out, turn the ball over 3 times in one half. Plus, there was a 3rd and long, I believe, where he had a fumbled snap on it. If I remember right from watching the film on this one, just a lot of mistakes in the first half that he could have come out down in the second half and not competed. And he stepped up. He competed, and he helped lead the defenders back to a victory. Now, they got a little momentum going into halftime with the halfback pass that they threw for a touchdown. That was huge to get it to 17-7. And then 2 scores in the second half, one as basically time was expiring into the end zone from 4 yards out, I believe, a little pass out into the flat there. And Dordt was able to come away with the victory. And a lot of credit, I think, goes to Noah Strickfaden, because he could have went one of 2 ways in this game, Pat. And you coach quarterbacks forever. You've got 3 interceptions in the first half. They result in scores. You could be thinking, I'm the reason we're down, and just all this negative self-talk. Comes out in the second half, plays a great game, steps right in there, throws a couple beautiful passes over the middle, one for a touchdown, and ends out getting the victory. Great performance by him and by Dordt to battle back on the road and get the victory over their rival Northwestern.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Jason. It's so difficult. Quarterback play, it's obviously incredibly cerebral with the decision speed and decision-making necessary. Then obviously the physical part of it. You got to make the throws physically and potentially have to run the football and things of that nature. So when you make mistakes that are, put your team in a tough situation, like, not taking care of the football and turn the ball over with interceptions, it can play with the quarterback's head. Obvious statement of the year. People know this game know that's true. And it does test the resolve of the quarterback and their character of how they can respond from those things. And for Strickfaden to come back and battle and win this game, again, the first time they've ever beaten Northwestern, I believe, correct, Jason?
Yep.
Or first time in school history. That is incredible. So, and again, a tight game, classic game. But you have to really, praise, Strickfaden for battling through those issues. 3 interceptions is a lot, Jason, but coming back and leading your team when it mattered the most to a victory is incredibly impressive, and testing that character and resolve to power through it. And it's cool to see. What do you think of Dort's defense, Jason? I was just kind of curious.
You were just starting to lead me into that. And the other credit that you have to give is to the defenders' defense, holding Northwestern to 257 total yards. There were times, obviously, after the interceptions with short field in the first half that, they were bending a little bit and gave up a score after the interception in the good field position. But really, Northwestern's offense was not able to do much against this defender defense. And Northwestern is a team that, right now is trying to figure things out still offensively. They've prided themselves so much in the last couple of years. And I've said this a couple of weeks in a row now. The Red Raider offense is best when they have a solid running game, and that includes a mobile quarterback and a running back that can get you 100 yards a game if you can, and then those sleek wide receivers that can get out there and stretch the field vertically. They don't really have all those elements working in sync right now. Like, there's glimpses of it here and there's glimpses of it there, but it's not happening consistently for them. And that's what I think we've seen in the two losses this year, the one to Mount Marty, the one now to Dordt, is there's times where it's like, yep, there it is. That's what Northwestern does on offense. And then there's other times where it's like, oh, wow, they're just not quite getting it done. And a lot of credit in this game to that Dordt defender defensive line and their linebackers coming up, really snuffing out the run, forcing Duncan to pass. I mean, Duncan was able to find wide receivers, but they weren't able to stretch the field. He goes 14 for 19 passing in this one for 162 yards. There was never really a time that he was able to stretch the field passing. Gardner Casey, the running back, I think he had the longest reception in the game for Northwestern. And that was a little swing pass out of the backfield where he was able to get loose, get downfield and get the ball across midfield for the Red Raiders. So you just look at how their offense is going. They've got some issues, but a lot of that was caused by what Dordt does on defense. And early in the season, I said, I don't think Dordt will be as good. They're replacing a lot of guys on defense. Yeah, and again, for the third week in a row, I will admit I'm wrong. In the GPAC right now, I really think it's Dordt and Morningside. And you see Morningside, not so much struggle this week on the road at Hastings with a 41-31 win, but there's more points being given up than what they should have there. There's just some little things that they need to clean up in a game like that. And Dordt, showing the willingness that they were to persevere in this game. I wouldn't help but think that, Dordt, if they get Morningside on a day that they're not focused, Dort's got the type of team that's going to push them to the limit. So there's my thoughts. That's where I'm at on it, Pat.
Yeah, watching the Mount Marty game, speaking of Northwestern, I kind of said that 2 weeks ago, and again, not to disparage. I mean, the Red Raiders have had just an unbelievable run the last 5, 6, 7 years. They really have when you get down to it. I mean, I know I go back to 2017. We played in the playoffs, and that was kind of the start of it in 2017, about that time of them really becoming, a national contender, and they're so well coached. You saw that build. I think they're kind of going through a bit of a rebuild, to reiterate that again. Now, I think they played very well in this game and obviously had a chance to win. But I think they're young in spots. You can see they're kind of developing some spots. They're not what we've seen the last couple of years. With that being said, I expect them to knock off a couple of teams in that league this year. I don't see them winning the national championship this year, to put it that. To make that clear. At the same time, I think they're back up on the rise where they can possibly get back into that national contention in the future. But I think there's a bit of a rebuild and some youth there that they're working through. That's just my opinion watching them even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And to bring it back home, you're talking about Northwestern there. Again, a lot of those issues that maybe don't pop up when you beat Dakota Wesleyan 23-0. They pop up against Dordt because Dordt's a talented football team. I like where they're rated at right now. I still think they have some things that they have to prove to get back into that top 10 where we saw them at one point last year. I think they were rated as high as number 4 last year before they had losses to Northwestern and Northwestern and Morningside last year. So I look at this Dordt team and I'm very intrigued with where they're going to go in the Great Plains Athletic Conference in the couple weeks to come. We move on. First of all, I don't think it's any surprise that we give the primetime performance in this game to Noah Strickfaden of Dordt. Yeah, he threw 3 interceptions. He turned the ball over. But the way he persevered and the way he came back, that's exactly why we point out these primetime performances, because 17 for 29 for 245 and 2 touchdowns, and to come back in the second half and get the victory, hats off to that young man. That's a great performance by him, our primetime performance in this game. This was a game you checked out pretty thoroughly, Pat. College of Idaho, Montana Tech. And we knew that this would be a game that the Yotes weren't just going to go, Montana Tech, they're undefeated. Man, they've played good. We'll go play a game and hopefully, no. College of Idaho battled to the end. They trailed going into the fourth quarter and really had an opportunity late in this game to potentially get the victory. Tech pulls it out. Great game, Pat.
Yeah, it really was a great game. And to be honest with you, I thought Montana Tech kind of held serve like we've kind of anticipated when consistently what they've done this year early in the game. I mean, it's a 27-10 going into the fourth quarter score. I mean, so that's what it is. And I thought Montana Tech had control. Now, with that being said, College of Idaho made plays throughout the game. There's no question about it. I just thought Montana Tech made more of them in both sides of the football and in even the special teams area as well. And then you get into the fourth quarter, 27-10, and here comes College of Idaho. I mean, really showed some resiliency and made some big plays. I mean, Travis Marrero can play.
Marrero.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about this guy can catch the foot. I mean, catch radius, goes up and gets the ball, battle catches, he can run pretty well. I mean, he was dynamic. And I thought Young was really, really good, Jason, in distributing the ball. He had some turnovers. One was a batted pass that got picked off in the game, but I thought he was exceptional. 21-38, 320, and that's a pretty solid game. Again, had a couple of turnovers, but one being deflection. The one thing about Montana Tech really bottled up the run game, very much so, of College of Idaho. So kind of forced to throw the football. But it was a battle, it was a battle tested situation with, Montana Tech had to hold on at the end and really make some plays in that they dominated, I thought, 3 quarters of the game. And then the fourth quarter got real competitive. But kind of talking about Montana Tech, I think we're seeing a really good progression of Jarrett Wilson from week 1 to where he is today. I'm seeing a build each and every week of improvement. He's really doing some good things. And he's really kind of developing a dual threat player, Jason. You're seeing more of a +1 running game. They're doing a lot more bootlegging and things like that to balance out the running game, complementary pieces to the running game, where he's got some mobility on the perimeter to throw the ball on the run or take off. He really is a threat running the ball. I mean, he had a big run this game to set up a score, a 50-yard run, just on a simple quarterback ISO deal, and takes it, and kind of doesn't get tackled and strong and breaks a tackle and gets 50 yards down the field to set up a score. So he's doing some really good things. And then you're seeing too with Johnson and his acumen, who is a stud. I mean, I think Keith Johnson is one of the best, if not the best back in the country right now. You're seeing College of Idaho really load the box up, Jason, creating one-on-one opportunities on the outside. And I think Jarrett Wilson made enough of those type throws because, I mean, that's what's presented to him. We kind of talked about last week when Montana Tech, when Johnson was balled up a little bit in the run game, they're really relying on more quarterback play to make throws, versus those looks, meaning that's one-on-one coverage because the box is all loaded up to defend the run. And something I saw, Jason, I want to bring up with Wilson, you saw a lot more audibling at the line of scrimmage versus those looks in that. So, I mean, it's probably you have a potential, probably a run game play called within the box. And it's there's too many bodies in there. You can see him audible to an outside throw, a one-on-one type throw. There's a couple guys that can really make some plays. I think Torgerson, I'm saying the name wrong. Torgerson's a dynamic player, great in space, and they do a great job getting him open versus man coverage on drags and things like that to get him the ball in space, let him do something with it. Michelati is more of a bigger type guy who's a one-on-one type player, go up and get it with those combat type catches, who's really, really dynamic. But I think Montana Tech's a very, very good football team, Jason. I'm seeing improvement every week, and I think College of Idaho really gave them quite a test yesterday. And again, they're dominant for 3 quarters, but here they come back throwing punches in the fourth and make this a contest. And, Montana Tech, held on. But I'm seeing a progression with not only the quarterback play, but this team, both sides of the football. And they're not one-dimensional. I thought last year they kind of were, Jason. Remember Lander Smith carried it 40 times a game. It seemed like at least 30 every time. You're seeing more of a balance. You are seeing strong defensive play. I think the role of Coach Sampson, because he's got a great offensive approach to what they're doing. And this is a good football team. And I think College of Idaho is a good football team, Jason. Again, kind of on that rise once again after all the graduation that they've had the last couple of years They've got some players too. These are two good football teams and arguably the deepest league in the affiliation.
Yeah, and I look at what Montana Tech has been challenged with in the last couple weeks. Southern Oregon said to them, "We're not going to let you run the football," and they forced Wilson to throw the ball, and Wilson did well and helped to win that game against Southern Oregon. Same thing this week. College of Idaho says, "We're not going to let you just run the football down our throats. We're going to make you beat us with somebody else." And Wilson had stepped up, did that. Torgerson, nice game. Michelati, a nice game as well. And then you're still getting some running production, obviously, out of Wykeese Johnson and others in this game. So Montana Tech continuing to be tested. A couple of stats. One I did not verify. One I know that is verified. But amazingly enough, in the history of the Ordigger program, they've never had a 5-0 start. This is their first 5-0 start in program history. So congratulations to the Ordiggers on that. The other stat, which was told to me, I haven't verified, but I don't have any reason to think it's not true. Montana Tech has not trailed for 1 second of a football game this year. They've either been tied 0-0 or tied at some other point in the game, or they have led the entire way this year. So they've never had to battle from behind. So that's kind of the next test for the Ordiggers, I think, in the coming weeks, because they're going to get into other games where they're going to get challenged and they might have to come from behind. And if that happens, you get behind. How do you respond? Kind of that continual progression. But going to their opponent real quick here again, College of Idaho, nice to see them competing in a big game like this on the road. I mean, if this is a game being played at Simplot Stadium in Caldwell, Idaho, College of Idaho might get the advantage in this one. So it's good to see College of Idaho get into the top 25 this week and ultimately compete the way that the number 25 team should compete against the number 6 team in the league. I don't feel like they're a team that should be punished for a loss on the road to 5-0 Montana Tech, but we'll see what happens in the top 25 this week.
No, one last point on this. I think, if anything, Jason, College of Idaho could be elevated because of this performance. That's my opinion. Just putting it out there. And then one more thing about Montana Tech. I think they can win a lot of different ways, Jason. I think they've proven that now with Wilson's progression. Seems to be week to week, getting better and better in the passing game. When these teams are saying, you know what, Wykeese isn't going to beat us by himself. I mean, we are going to load the box up. You're going to do different things. When I say that they can win multiple ways, Wilson can make some throws on the outside, certainly in man coverage when boxes are loaded up. The other thing they're doing is more the +1 running game, Jason, kind of similar to what College of Idaho has done so many times, over the years with Andy Peters. What we're seeing now with Jackson Waring at Grandview is with boxes loaded. Well, the quarterback gives you another hat, essentially gives you another blocker, with the quarterback being the runner. So you're seeing that, and it's smart how their approach is, because again, they're getting people down inside the box defending the run, and there's no doubt about it. So you have two options: either get another hat to block with +1 running game with the quarterback, or you're throwing on the perimeter, and they're doing both. And that's a good sign if you're a Montana Tech fan, because they're playing strong defense and they're winning offensively in a couple different ways.
End of the day, it's two great football teams in the NAIA competing this weekend, and we're going to be talking about them more as the season goes on. And arguably, I think you have to say your primetime performance of the game goes to Jarrett Wilson. 188 yards passing, 108 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, really stepping up as the quarterback in this game, and doing what you have to do in big games to get the victory. Great performance by Wilson as our primetime performance selection of this featured game. Now, I don't think anybody can argue the best game of the weekend was Marian and Indiana Wesleyan. I mean, just from throw out where they're playing at, who the teams are. If I just told you the back and forth, the lead changes, the going down, the getting back up, everything in this game, you'd say, yeah, that was probably the best football game of the weekend. And we saw all of it. We saw a 10-0 lead. We saw a team go down 21-10. We saw a team come back, get the lead. We saw a team lose the lead. All the things. Great football game here between Marian and Indiana Wesleyan. Very reminiscent of what we saw 2 years ago at Indiana Wesleyan, where Marian and Indiana Wesleyan linked up for a crazy game there. That Indiana Wesleyan won. Marian gets the win 52-42 in this one.
Jason, 7 lead changes in the final 17 minutes.
Yeah. Crazy.
Over
Absolutely
1,000
crazy.
yards of total offense. Over 1,000 yards of total offense in combination. Crazy game. Two really good teams. Both should be playoff teams. I hope Indiana Wesleyan can win out because they need to be in the playoffs. That's what I'm concerned about. They should, in theory, with the mid-state season. I don't think it's a deep, strong division, in my opinion. Indiana Wesleyan by far is the best in that division, in my opinion. And I foresee them winning out, to be truthful. And they need to be in the playoffs. And this may be something we see down the road again. These two teams locking up. Again, they're 40 miles apart, Jason, even though this is technically a non-conference game, East and West. Let's get into it. I mean, where do you want to start? I mean, my goodness.
Let's start with Indiana Wesleyan, and then we'll go a little more about Marian. I thought the second quarter of this game, Indiana Wesleyan controlled the line of scrimmage. They ran the ball well. They found open wide receivers. They did everything in the second quarter that made them look like the number 5 team in the country. I mean, they were able to push Marian around on the offensive and defensive lines. They looked like the number 5 team in the country in the second quarter for sure.
I totally agree with you. I think you can start there. I really am very, very impressed with Indiana Wesleyan's offensive line in particular. I think their run game is strong. They do ask a lot of their quarterback with a run-pass option game. Again, pretty much everyone in the country does at this point. But there's a pretty good balance to what they do offensively. And they are very good up front. They're mobile. They're big and mobile. You see that. I mean, you really watch, we were fortunate to have huddle film and watch the tight, in behind the line of scrimmage. And you're seeing those guys moving well and getting movement. And you're seeing, the production of what they had in the run game. And I agree with you. And they had some big time plays. I mean, they're taking, RPO, like essentially numbers game, RPO screens on the perimeter and taking them 70 yards for touchdowns. I mean, that happened in the game.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of big time plays. I thought Smith was really, really good. This kid Brumball kind of coming out of nowhere.
I thought the same. Yeah.
I thought he was fantastic. I mean, Indiana Wesleyan has weapons, Jason. And, getting into the quarterback play, he's a young player. Is it Lothey? I'm trying to.
Lothey. Yep. Aaron Lothey.
Yeah. Really athletic kid, lefty, he's got a little longer delivery, which every left-hander I've ever seen or ever coached does. But he is athletic, and he's asked to do quite a bit. I mean, this is the Steve Ryan system. This is Morningside system offensively, where there's a lot on the quarterback, and you see the production of 400 yards. And he made a lot of plays and was dynamic in this football game. And there are some perimeter players, those receivers. I mean, get those guys the ball, good things are going to happen. So, you see Indiana Wesleyan fall behind late, and we'll kind of talk about how the game ended here a little bit. But they've got firepower. They're really good up front. I think they got to tighten some things up on defense. The one thing I'm seeing from them, knowing Indiana Wesleyan since their inception, I'm not seeing a collective great speed on defense like we've had maybe the last couple of years. That's just my opinion. I don't see the 11 hats flying to the football like they once had maybe a few years ago. I think their secondary is pretty good, but I think they're a work in progress maybe in the second level a bit. I think they've had some turnover there with some graduation. But I think they're pretty darn good. I think the D-line is pretty solid as well. So I think they're certainly – I still think they're a top 10, 12 team in this affiliation. I think they're very, very talented. That's a tough place to win, Jason. If this guy that's I can only think my coaching career, how many times have I been at Marian? 3 times maybe it's a hard place to win. And it's one of those things where if this is in Marian, Indiana, not to confuse our viewers here, Marian, I-O-N, where Indiana Wesleyan is located, Marian, Indiana. If it's there, it may go the other way. I mean, that's how close this game was. Yeah, it's a 10-point victory for Marian. We'll talk about how that all happened at the end. But this was a game, again, the lead changes. I think they're incredibly evenly matched. I foresee this happening down the road again, maybe in the playoffs if things work out. But Indiana Wesleyan's a good football team, Jason. Again, I think a top 12 team without question, not top 10 in this affiliation.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And going back kind of the second quarter, even in the third quarter, I felt like the defensive line for Indiana Wesleyan, they really got pressure on Tristan Polk. You saw that a lot in the second quarter where, he didn't even really seem like he got a lot of time to get the ball off in the second quarter. So they were coming after him. That defensive line put a lot of pressure on him. But Polk really, now we'll transition over to the Marian now. I felt like this was almost the tale of two halves for him, what we saw from him in the second half. And I think he helped himself out a little bit in this game, Pat. There's a couple times where, he finally decided to just tuck it and run it, or even a designed run play late in the game to get that final touchdown, where we saw Polk get mobile and maybe cause some confusion for that Indiana Wesleyan defense in the second half with the way that he was able to get out. It softened things up for some of his wide receivers and for running back Keegan LaBelle.
I get the nail on the head. I mean, I don't think Polk was very good in the first half, to be honest with you, Jason. I thought he was outstanding in the second half. And you're exactly right. Made some big time throws. I mean, there was a lot of, use football jargon here. I'll explain this. You hear this talk and this buzzword all the time. Blitz zero. Okay, what was blitz zero? Okay, 6-man pressure scheme. It's cover zero.
Six-man pressure scheme. Yeah.
But like you hear people talk and say, blitz zero coming. These guys act like people know football jargon. But anyway, blitz zero. What that means is there are 6 men coming. It's cover zero across the board. It's man to man across 6 blitzers, and it's there's no safety help. It is man to man across the board. Both of these teams literally ran that and got scored on for huge plays.
Yes,
in this game. And even the final touchdown that Polk ran was quarterback draw, and that was a 5-man pressure scheme in cover 1. So there's a free safety on top and man everywhere else, and he just beat the blitzers, and there was no one on hit signed to him, and he took off and scored for the game-sealing touchdown. Yeah, I mean, Polk made some throws, and he's not a flashy runner either, Jason. Like, he's not like, man, this guy's a real dual threat guy. He's not. He's kind of a bigger kid, but you admire his resiliency and his toughness. I mean, he put his head down for yards at times because he needed to do it, and he made the throws when he had to. He got sacked, and he got knocked around a little bit too. With some of the blitz schemes and the strong defensive line play, like you said, with Indiana Wesleyan, and like. The throw he made to Warner against cover zero, 6-man pressure. Indiana Wesleyan bring it in the fourth quarter, and the corner falls down. It's almost a kind of a little rubber out deal, and it's like a 75-yard touchdown. So I think when Warner scored, he only had 3 receptions, 96 yards. I think one of them was 70 yards for a touchdown.
Yep.
To get him back into it in the fourth quarter. I think that was the one that was the score that got him to 3 points. And then the final score was, again, pressure scheme, quarterback draw for like 25-yard touchdown. To go ahead. And then I guess you want to talk about how it all ended. I mean, there was Wesleyan got the ball back with some time back, threw an interception, probably should have been called down. I don't see any way, shape, or form how that guy was upright. They gave it to him. It was a pick 6. They called it a touchdown. Ball should have been down. But anyway, they were still up by 3 at that time. That was the 10-point score. It was a pick 6 in the last minute of the game. So
yep.
The game's a 10-point victory for Marian. It's a 3-point game. I mean, it was
as you said to me when I pointed it out, like, gosh, how do they not call him down watching that on the video? And you just said, yeah, but they would have just clocked it out from there.
Yeah, they would blot it out.
Like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot there was only 34 seconds left in the game, and Marian would have had the ball there. So
the thing is, though, I think if obviously the turnover doesn't happen 34 seconds, I kind of like Wesleyan's chances to drive the field again. I mean, they were sitting back and, again, football talk here, the 3 high safety look, so like a 3 cloud defense, prevent type style defense. But I mean, Wesleyan's in empty, and they're throwing around and getting some completions. It was a pretty good pick, individual play to make that interception. Probably should have whistled down, but called it a pick 6. But this was a classic game, one of the best of the year, no question. Again, if you love offense, and I'll encourage anyone, Jason, we watched on Huddle. I don't know if you can go back and see this replayed anywhere online. I definitely recommend if you can find it, watch it. At least the fourth quarter is definitely worth a watch. And again, folks, 7 lead changes in the last 17 minutes or so. Pretty significant. And it's big plays. It's like all or nothing type things. Hey, we're bringing 6, and this ball gets thrown over our head for a 75-yard touchdown. I mean, that's the stuff that happened in this game. So,
we dare you to try. Okay.
It's one of those things, D coordinators, and I hated blitz zero because it's like, well, you know what? We bring this thing off, or our quarterback's going to eat one here. But the thing is, it is high risk and potentially high reward. But I mean, it's very, very high risk where you have somebody fall down like Indiana Wesleyan, did to give up the lead or the tie, or was it the score to put them within 1 score? Because they were up a couple scores in the fourth there, Jason.
Yep. And
that was a 75-yard touchdown they gave up in a blitz zero situation on 3rd down. So there's a couple scenarios like that where those D coordinators went a little bonkers and went 6-man pressures and man across the board. So for a football fan, it's a heck of a game to watch, no question.
So, and just so people understand, and you can look this up. So at halftime or 21-10, Keegan LaBelle 5-yard run, 21-17. Elijah Price 5-yard run, 24-21 Marian. Indiana Wesleyan then scores on a 79-yard pass to Brumbaugh. 28-24, 104 left in the third quarter. At this point, Indiana Wesleyan has the lead going into the fourth. 8:58 left to play in the fourth quarter. Marian scores on a 5-yard pass from Polk to Ben Huron. 31-38, Marian leads. Indiana Wesleyan turns around with 5:45 left. They score. They go up 35-31 as Brumbaugh catches a 51-yard pass. Then 4:42 left. Jake Richard, 74-yard touchdown pass to go up 38-35 over Marian with 4:42 left. Minute 49 left now. Cameron Morrison, 17-yard run to go up 42-38 for Indiana Wesleyan. 45 seconds left now. Tristan Polk, 29-yard touchdown run to go up 45-42. And then the 29-yard interception return by Yassine Falke, 52-42, your final. I mean, just that's all in the third and fourth quarter, and most of it was in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was not boring, Jason. I've seen a few boring games this year. This was not one of them. This was a classic. And again, I'm an offensive guy, so it was a lot of fun to watch. The ball in the air and, attacking style defense. You still saw some sacks, and those defenses were incredibly aggressive, but the offenses won many reps as well for big plays against those pressure schemes. So it was a lot of fun to watch. And like I said before, I would not be shocked to see this again sometime in November, maybe early December even. Because again, it's so weird that they're on opposite ends of the conference, East and West. This is a non-conference game, even though they're a county away from each other.
The last thing I'll end with on this game, I want to give a lot of credit to Marian's offensive and defensive line. You go from, and it's kind of like what we talked about with Dordt. Second quarter was not a good quarter for either of those two groups on offense or defense. Third and fourth quarter was much better, especially on the offensive line. I thought they gave Polk more protection in the second half. I thought they opened up some really nice lanes for Keegan LaBelle. So tale of two halves, the Marian offensive line in the second half, they did what they needed to do. But I think you got to give your primetime performance in this game to Tristan Polk. 15 of 30 passing, 261 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, plus a big rushing touchdown at the end of the game. Finished with 63 yards on the ground and that scoring touchdown. Great performance by Polk to get the primetime performance in this one, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, he willed the Knights to victory. He really did. Because like we said, and you hit the nail on the head, Jason, it was a tale of two halves for him. Missed some throws. I don't think he was great in the first half, certainly not very, very productive. In the second half was lights out and really battled and took some shots and kept getting up and running the football when he needed to, and certainly made the throws, staring down the gun barrel of 6-man pressures a lot of times. And that's a character builder for a quarterback, seeing that type of pressure coming at you, knowing you're going to get hit and you have to deliver the football. And Polk certainly did.
Let's hammer through it. Let's get into the NAIA top 25, how everything went, some of the games that we didn't talk about, most of these in the top 5 we've already gone through at length, so we'll continue. We get into that spot 6 through 10. Of course, we had Friends with the big win, then Montana Western over Dickinson State, and then St. Thomas not playing this week, so some idle there. Spots 11 through 15, more teams idle. We had Northwestern and Dordt here. Spots 16 through 20. Here's a couple games that we didn't really talk much about. Southwestern really laid it on Bethany, 80-14. Carroll defeated Rocky Mountain, 27-13. And then the other two games that we've talked about here. So not a lot to break down here. Carroll gets a nice home victory. Southwestern, Pat, they lay it on Bethany and put up 80 points. Yeah.
Cue your dry heaving? No?
Yeah.
80.
Little more action in spots 21 through 25. Concordia gets a win over Waldorf, 54-10. Waldorf has only scored 10 points this year. Yeesh. Texas Wesleyan defeats Nelson. We talked about Mid-American Nazarene eking one out against Missouri Baptist, 41-39 in this game. And William Penn stays undefeated. They beat Culver Stockton. They went down early in this game. I think they were down 7-0 early, and then battled back and won at 48-21. And then we talked about College of Idaho. So that win by William Penn, they stay perfect. And that sets up a battle for this week that we'll talk about here momentarily. Teams outside The top 25, maybe to make mention to McPherson, I put him in my top 25. So my brain was like, well, they're top 25. They're not in the coach's top 25. I think you might see them jump in this week. You've also got Briarcliff sitting at 3-1, Faulkner sitting at 3-1, Dakota State sitting at 3-1. Their stock is rising. You could see them start receiving votes. I don't think Briarcliff, Faulkner, or Dakota State are going to get in the rating, but I think if they keep winning, okay, you're going to start thinking about them more and more. But Pat, I would say McPherson is probably the next team we see enter the top 25 at this point.
Yeah, I love how you put that stock rising, because I think there's a few other teams you could also add to this list that have really put together a good start, first half of this season here as we approach October. So couldn't agree more. These four are certainly on the rise.
And we'll talk about them coming up here momentarily. Don't forget the Victory Sports Network NAIA Football Top 25 will be out tomorrow morning. Go ahead and check out victorysportsnetwork.com tomorrow to see the movement. And I've preliminary put it together, and there's going to be some movement in that. There's going to be some teams kind of drop, move around. Some teams stay in. We've alluded to some of that, so that's all coming up. All right, top NAIA games coming up this week in the world of NAIA football. We've got rating clashes. We've got conference clashes. We've got it all. Here's a look at the top games coming up this week. The first look at them. Going down south, Mid-South Conference, Cumberland's and Campbellsville. You've got Florida Memorial going to Southwestern, St. Francis going to Taylor, and Concordia traveling to Mount Marty. First slide here, Pat, what catches your eye?
Well, St. Francis Taylor, obviously with my history and proximity to where I live. And I did see this game last year in person. And I will tell you, Taylor beat up St. Francis, Jason, a year ago. So I can tell you, Coach Sherman's team here in Fort Wayne is going to travel down to Upland once again with a chip on their shoulder, because they were out muscled last year, just out physical, the whole 9 yards, and got beat by Taylor, a good Taylor team. And I know they've got something to prove, and I will guarantee you they will come out, guns blazing, and they're going to go compete. And they feel pretty good about their football team. Again, kind of an odd game yesterday that they pulled out, believe it or not, against Defiance. So, maybe looking ahead a little bit, getting into conference play here. But Taylor is a good football team, Jason. Again, a very difficult preparation team for St. Francis. So this is going to be an interesting game. I promise you this. This will be down to the wire and potential classic in Upland on Saturday.
I look one slide over for the game that's catching my eye the most. That's going to be Concordia out Mount Marty. Concordia, they really have not been tested yet this year by the upper half, because they haven't played anybody in the upper half of the Great Plains Athletic Conference. This is their first toe dip in the water for that. Mount Marty lost a game to Briarcliff. Otherwise, they'd be undefeated coming into this game. But that was a game that Briarcliff just flat out beat Mount Marty. So seeing how the Lancers come back and seeing how Concordia competes on the road, that's going to be key in this game, especially since the way the GPAC is right now. Concordia is undefeated. We didn't talk about them at all when we're talking about Dordt and Morningside. This is a chance for Concordia, who has a lot of new skill position players on offense, to keep their progression going and potentially remain undefeated and, vying for a potential conference title in the Great Plains Athletic Conference. So this one's got me looking a little bit to see how Concordia competes on the road. The other games on here, Cumberland's at Campbellsville. It's a nice game in the Mid-South Conference, as well as Florida Memorial and Southeastern, Pat.
Yeah, I think Campbell's got to be careful here, Jason. I think Cumberland's is well coached. They've kind of been up and down a little bit this season. Have played well at times, drop a game you would expect them to be more competitive in. And I think Campbell's was a good football team. They've proven themselves throughout the year. But this is one they've got to keep, stay on task and play well to keep that undefeated record going.
Florida Memorial got a nice win over Cumberland University in Tennessee this week. So they go in flying high against Southeastern. Now, Southeastern, they were tested the last couple times that they've been out. They got tested by Faulkner. They got tested by Reinhardt. They're going to get this one at home. How do they compete? Really in the conference where it starts to matter. Southeastern, they can guarantee their way into the postseason by winning the Sun Conference. Of course, they got to get through Kaiser and St. Thomas and, of course, Florida Memorial this week. So we'll be very interested to see how the Fire take to this game at home against a very tough Florida Memorial team. We go on. All right, I kind of buried the lead a little bit. We've got some great top 25 matchups this week, Pat. We'll just start with Grandview going to William Penn. I think if you think of Grandview on a scale of 0 to 100%, right now they're the number one team in the NAIA. They're 100%. Where is William Penn going to be at to compete with them? Are they going to come in this game? They're going to put a 30% performance out there and get beat 50 to 10? Are they going to put a 50% performance out there? And all right, they compete a little bit better. Maybe it's a 42-17 game, or are they in that 80, 90, really starting to push in the league now? Can they play with Grandview and make this a tight game late? I think this is where I'm trying to see, where is William Penn at in their progression. We've seen them beat Baker. We've seen them have some nice wins at home and on the road, and they beat Mid-American Nazarene. Where are they at? And I think we find that out this week against Grandview. Are they? Yep, they're going to be competing in the Heart North, and we should consider them for the postseason. Or is Grandview still just that much better than everybody else?
Well, Grandview is very, very good. Obviously, they're a defending national champion. They've played exceptional football this season. And I will tell you, I think if these teams played 10 times, I think Grandview certainly wins 9 of them. Now, with that being said, this game is in Oskaloosa. It's a home game for William Penn. William Penn, I'm telling you what, you saw a buzz a couple of weeks ago, Jason, the Mid-American Nazarene game of there's some fan support, student support. They're a good football team, and they're physical, and they are balanced offensively. Now, they can play strong enough defense where I think in theory, can that 1 out of 10 potentially happen where William Penn could get this into a tight game, a score game, a touchdown game? It's possible. I'm not saying it's completely out of the realm. I wouldn't bet it. At the same time, I think this game certainly has the potential of being competitive. I will say that. Potentially. I'm not saying it's going to be.
No, I'm with you.
Again, out of the 10 times, like that one time, this could be a dogfight, potentially. And honestly, Grandview's a team, Jason, they don't blow really people out necessarily. I mean, a blowout for them is a 35-7 game. That's kind of a blowout anyway. But even 28-7, that's a blowout for them. That's kind of the way Grandview does things in a dominant fashion. But I think William Penn, can make this competitive because they are physical. They are balanced what they do offensively. I think they can be physical on defense as well against a physical offense like Grandview.
I think this game 100% comes down to, can William Penn run the ball against Grandview's defense? If William Penn can move the ball on the ground, they're going to have a chance. If Grandview just completely shuts that down, it could be one of those, as we call them, a Grandview blowout 24-7. In a game that felt like it was 48-3, so that's what we're going to look for in that game. Lindsey Wilson at Georgetown. So Georgetown was obviously the higher rated team to start the season. Lindsey Wilson burst onto the scene, and now these two teams are going to duke it out against one another in conference play right as we start Mid-South Conference play to show which one of them is going to be the leader to start things off here halfway through the season and, kind of have the edge on everybody else. And I think Lindsey Wilson has played extremely good football this year. They've beaten some very good football teams at home, on the road, all the things. They've done all the things, but now you're in conference play, you're against a rival. Teams that know one another, have recruited the same players, got guys that had scholarship offers on each team. What's going to come from that? And I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen Saturday and see if we maybe see a changing of the guard in the Mid-South or if the old guard stands pat.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, it's nice to see that both are coming off a bye week, maybe getting healed up a little bit after some physical games. Georgetown having a loss. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens here off the bye week and that they've had 2 weeks to prepare for each other, both of them. It's kind of interesting. You don't see that too often, really, with both of them come off a bye in a rivalry game, certainly. I think being at Georgetown is worth a score. I don't think it's enough, Jason. I think Lindsey Wilson's a real deal, Jason. I think they're really, really good. I think a top 5, top 6, certainly, if not higher roster when it comes to talent. They remind me probably minus a National Player of the Year quarterback. Again, I'm not saying they've had some quarterback injuries and things like that at the position. They're a National Player of the Year quarterback away from a roster that reminds me of 2019, the year they won the national championship. I'm talking speed everywhere, skill guys up front, big bodies. It's an impressive looking roster, and I think very highly of them. And I don't like this matchup for Georgetown, but it is in Georgetown. I will say that. So they have that going for them. And if they can, rally the troops here and have a great crowd and a great environment here, again, it could be a situation. This is a good football game. But I think Lindsey Wilson is very, very strong, Jason. And I think this is an opportunity for them to really stake their claim, essentially them in Campbellsville for the conference championship.
I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record based on the last featured game that we just talked about. But if Georgetown can run the football against Lindsey Wilson and establish some sort of ground game there, so that it opens up their pass a little bit more, takes a little bit of pressure off of the quarterback play for the Tigers, I think the Tigers have got a chance. If the Tigers can't establish a run in this game, I think it's Lindsey Wilson. Like you said, it's probably worth the score being at Georgetown. But yeah, I think we're in the realm of a 28-14, a 24-10 game here if the Tigers can't run the football.
Totally agree. And I think it get even, Lindsey Wilson can score in the 40s, to be very honest with you. So, yeah, I mean, I want to see this be a good game because this is important. This rivalry to me, Jason, is important to the NAIA. I think in this area of the country, these are two teams that have won national championships. They're very, very important. This great state of Kentucky is a big deal to the NAIA, and these are two of the best historically. And want to see a great game of this rivalry matchup.
We'll have our eyes on it on Saturday. Another one that's kind of a sneaky game this week because Southern Oregon is coming off of losses and a brutal loss on the road in Madison, South Dakota to Dakota State 11-10. You go on the road, you lose that. It's not good. Well, now you're getting into conference play. Now you're playing Montana Western, a team in the Frontier Conference West Division. You get them at home. Just don't mind me hiccuping as I talk here. You get them at home. So the Bulldogs are going to be, in Ashland, Oregon for this one. And what team is going to show up for Southern Oregon? We know they've got talent on that roster. We know that they've got a quality football team that can compete in the Frontier Conference. But the first 1/3 of the season really has not gone the way that they've wanted it to. So how do they respond after a brutal road loss? I think we're going to learn a lot about Southern Oregon and their chances in the West. And we're going to see Montana Western get put to a little bit of a test here. Not a little bit of it. They're going to get put to a test. They've got a road trip. They're going against a talented team and a team that, maybe hasn't looked good on film. So a little tough to prepare for and exactly what they're going to be able to do against you come Saturday.
Jason, I kind of think if you would have a situation like Southern Oregon's in with many, many teams at any level of football, it's like, man, this has just been a weird season. We had high hopes. Here we are. They're 1-3, I believe now, Jason, if I'm not mistaken. Losses, a D2 program, lost a tight game this week by a point. Kind of a weird deal. But I think the world of Coach Brown. I think he's the type of guy as a leader. And I know some of the guys on that staff, they're really good football coaches. And I think this can be a thing where they can evaluate where they are. It's like, guys, okay, this has been kind of a weird deal. Okay, here's the reality of the situation. But now we're getting into, an opportunity to play a Montana Western team that was in the final 8 last year. And what an opportunity. They're coming to our place. And we can really turn this thing around with putting forth our best effort. Let's get a great game plan together. Let's go get our guys ready to go play the best that they can play with what we currently have. And Montana Western is talented. Certainly, we know that. But this league, Jason, like we've talked about for the last handful of years, every single week you got to buckle it up. I don't care who the heck you're playing. It could be a 1-3 Southern Oregon team we know is talented and have great leadership at the head coaching position. And Montana Western better buckle it up. Yep. Going into Ashland. So that's my feeling on it. Do I predict Southern Oregon to win this game? No, but it's tough to go on the road in this league, Jason, without question.
And this is what I love about the NAIA Championship Series. Everybody wants to make the postseason, and a 1-3 team 3 years ago, we wouldn't even be saying they got a chance. But now they've got a chance. Frontier Conference West. If they win out or could even potentially lose a game, depending on who they lose to and tiebreakers and all that sort of stuff, they could lose a game in that division and still make the NAIA Championship Series as the conference champion. There's a whole 1,000 scenarios that go with that. But the point I'm trying to make is their season is still very much alive. Everyone's season in the NAIA is very much alive because of the automatic qualifier as a conference champion. And that's really got to be the mentality right now for Southern Oregon is, hey, we're into our league play. We're into the games that really count towards postseason qualification. We cannot just lay down to Montana Western because we're licking our wounds because we lost a game on the road to Dakota State. Sound like I'm giving a pep talk to Southern Oregon right here. Montana Western's probably not going to appreciate that. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, it really counts now. So step up, play your best game. So that's what we're looking forward to there. The other game on this is one of those bounce back games because we saw this with Mount Marty. Mount Marty beats Northwestern. They go out the next week. Maybe it's 2 weeks later. Can't remember for sure. The season's been.
I think it was a week later.
By.
I think
it was a
right.
week later. They lose to Briar Cliff a week later.
Correct.
So now Dordt comes off of a big win over Northwestern. They're going to play Briar Cliff. How do they respond? Or does Briar Cliff start playing the role of giant killers? Keep in mind that one loss that Briar Cliff has was to Morningside, one of the best teams in the country. So just because they haven't really played him, but they beat all the teams on their schedule and they lost to the number 4 team in the country. So the defenders better be ready in this game. They can't have a letdown. You can't have 3 interceptions in the first half and expect that Briar Cliff is just going to say, okay, well, we're going to let you win. No, Briar Cliff wants to win. They're sitting 3-1, one of the best starts in program history for the Chargers. They're going to want to win this game because it's going to put them in the upper tier of the Great Plains Athletic Conference. So the defenders really got to be careful this Saturday.
Completely agree. I mean, and it's an emotional win, beating a team that you've never beaten before, Northwestern, a team that's been a power. It's won a national championship in the last handful of years, and Dordt finally beat them. That is a significant thing. And with that being said, is you got to get ready to buckle up again because, like you said, Jason, Briar Cliff is on the rise without question. Stock is rising, and they've probably never have been as confident with themselves right now, or have ever been this confident as they are right now with themselves. Let's be honest, right? I mean, stock is rising. They're winning football games again. They lose to their crosstown rival, perennial power Morningside. They've beaten everybody else. They feel pretty confident right now going into this game, and what an opportunity they have to get a good Dordt team after a huge win. And there is some emotional component to that. That's tough to do 2 weeks in a row. So Briar Cliff's in an interesting spot to go challenge Dordt in this game, Jason.
Yeah, in the history of Briar Cliff football, which has existed since 2003, they went 6-5 in 2018. Otherwise, I believe that is their only time they have finished above 500.
Yeah.
So
this is it.
Definitely as high as they have ever been as a program. And if Dordt does not come focused and ready to play on Saturday, the Chargers will get them. Now, I think Dort's going to win this football game. I think the world of Coach Penner and his staff and what they've done to prepare their team for this year. But if you get a little lackadaisical, it could potentially happen. So keep your eye on that one. All right, Pat. Did we forget anything?
I don't think so. A lot of stuff. Really good games, more this week, top 25 and conference implications, huge coming up this week. I know you had some travel. I've got some travel coming up as well, kind of towards your neck of the woods here this weekend. But you're up in
this is coming.
Yeah, I'm heading up to Minnesota next week. So a week from today, I will be in the great city of Minneapolis. So a little work trip, required thing, but heading not too far from you. What is that, 5 hours, 4 hours from you?
The 3.5.
3.5? That's not too bad. Yeah, and you were north of the border here recently. So
I was. So it's kind of funny, and a lot of people don't realize this about where Fargo sits. So we're just a little over 3 hours from Sioux Falls. We're 3.5 hours from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. And we're only 3.5 hours from Winnipeg. And people that aren't familiar with the territory and don't pay attention in geography or population might not realize, like, the metro of Winnipeg is right at 1 million people. I think it's 875,000 or 900 and some thousand people live there. So Winnipeg's a cool city. Obviously got an NHL hockey team, got a CFL football team and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which on the offensive line, I believe, coached by former NAIA coach Marty Costello, who was at Dana College and Valley City State University. And I think he was also at Lindenwood as well.
I think you're right. Lindenwood.
I think, yeah. I think he was there when they were at the championship.
Pat Ross. Yeah, with Pat Ross.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, I mean, we went to Winnipeg this weekend, kind of did, for the first time in almost a year, just a Jason and wife trip. The little Irie, she went with grandma and grandpa. Also, the other hidden factor while we go to Winnipeg, her parents live up in northern North Dakota, and we drive, they meet us, and we say, bye-bye, love you, see you Sunday, and we go have a good time in Winnipeg. Smart.
I'm jealous. I am jealous because when you have kids that are involved in so many things that mine are, there's no time for husband and wife trips anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always the kids, or we're going somewhere for the kids in particular.
Yes.
I had hockey all weekend, and yeah, that's what we're doing with our kids. And our daughter is a dancer, so she's in competitive dancing now, Jason. So yeah, we got kids doing something every weekend. So
yeah, my niece was in that, and I went to a couple dance recitals, and I live tweeted those. If you want to go way back in my Twitter, you can find the dance uncle hashtags of me evaluating 8-year-old dance as if it were a college football game. Like, came out strong, little weak at the end. I don't know if this is going to get it for him this week.
The best thing about those dance recitals is they give you a program. So I know exactly when my daughter's going to dance, so I can follow along. I usually have my son sitting with me. He pays attention. He's one of those guys. I go, hey, dude, tell me when she's close so I can get off my phone and not email customers. And I just literally catch them on emails the entire. It's like a 2.5 hour thing, and you're sitting there in the dark. So it's like, hey, dude,
they give you one of these programs, and it's like
100%. And there's like 27 different dance groups and all that. And it's like, hey, bud, let me know your sister's going to be next. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So good old Winnipeg was fun. Yeah, I think Winnipeg? I think is the coldest. I know North American city with a population over 1 million. I know that for sure. I think it's one of the many. There's only like a handful in the world.
Yeah,
get to that point. I mean, I forget the average temperature. It is miserable in the winter. I know that for sure. But this time of year, it's probably great. So
no, it was beautiful, 70 degrees. We actually went north of Winnipeg another hour to this small town called Gimli. Crazy history in Gimli. It's actually kind of in the territory that was founded originally as New Iceland. So it's got a very big Norwegian Viking heritage there. The giant Viking statue I got my picture in front of course. Why wouldn't I? And then obviously big time fishing area because it's right on Lake Winnipeg. And, I'm a fan of good fish. And they say some of the best walleye in North America come out of that lake. So we had walleye, which strangely in that area is called pickerel. They call it pickerel, but pickerel as a species is actually a different fish. They're just calling walleye pickerel in that area. It's not really regardless. I was like, I don't care what you call it. Just bring me another slab. It was quite tasty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my son plays hockey, obviously, and he's played with some Canadian kids over the years, some from that area, and they're amazed. It's so cool. I've never walleye fished. I've never, pike fish necessarily. I've always talked about it, but they're amazed here about bass fishing, which, here in Indiana, there's bass every pond. There's a pond behind my house with probably 3.
Yeah, there's bass in it. Yeah.
Bass everywhere. So they were amazed that hey, can we see pictures of your bass that you catch? Like, of course. Yeah. Show us all the crazy, the walleye and all that you guys catch with the pickerel. So yeah, my son had a teammate this summer that was actually from that area, not too far from Winnipeg. So anyway, kind of crazy story there with the whole connection, but yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's fun.
I was going to say the other thing that we did, the highlight of the trip, people can judge me. I don't care. We go to this place called the Thermea Spa. And I guess I'm giving them a free plug because they didn't want to give me anything for free, but I'm willing to pay for it. It's called the Thermea Spa. It's like sauna, hot tub, a cooling, like the cold plunge, like all the like smoky effervescence things there. It's all of that stuff there. Plus there's a restaurant. It's awesome. You just go there, you unplug for like 2 to 3 hours. You go and you do the sauna, you get super hot. They're like waving leaves in the air. It smells like wood in there. You walk out, you go cold plunge, you sit in that for like 2 minutes and you're just like dying. And then you get into the warming tub and your entire body just tingles. It's awesome. Absolutely love it. Could do it every single day of my life.
Sounds great. My cold plunge was sitting in a cold ice rink in Detroit yesterday. So there you go. That's what I did. Do we have any, for the love of NAIA stories?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I did not have much of a chance to go through the emails, so I apologize to everybody. We have our For Love of the NAIA segment where we do a little NAIA story time about some of the trials and tribulations, and I kind of want to get a couple of them built up. So I've got a few sitting there that we'll talk about next week. on the show. And this kind of gives maybe Pat and I a chance to end the show with a little bit of story time. I know you mentioned you had one. I always go back to the college fans era, the short 20 months that was my run with the College Fans Sports Network when they purchased the Victory Sports Network. And then within 20 months, went bankrupt, and then I bought the Victory Sports Network back. But in those 20 months when we were traveling the country, broadcasting a game of the week every week and, traveling all over the countryside, like I could literally tell a story from each week of those seasons. But every time that we get together, we always talk about Missouri Valley, which is one that kind of popped into your head too when we were talking pre-show. But that was I'll tell the story real quick. We go to Missouri Valley. This is late in the season. This is week 9 or 10. So we're tired. We've been traveling. We've been sleeping in a van. Very rarely are we getting a hotel. Missouri Valley, out of the kindness of their heart, had a deal, I think, at the Super 8 where they had some free rooms that they gave us. So we're the 4 guys are bunking together in one room. And the one gal, she's got her own room. And we go to this event on Friday night, and they're honoring the owner of College Fans, which is the former, the founder, pardon me, of ESPN. And they do this entire talk and pomp and circumstance about all the hard work that he's put into College Fans and traveling and all this stuff. And we're sitting in the room. We're in there. And after a 20-minute thing and then him talking, nobody says anything about us. And we've just spent 6 hours setting up the broadcast, and we're just looking at one another. And this happened to be an event where they had some drinks on the table, and we're just looking at one another let's go. And we just keep doing it. We end up going to Charlie Hustlers, I think is called. And not what you're probably thinking. It was a sports bar named after Charlie Hustle, I believe. And I think it was I don't know if it was penny pitchers or dollar shot night or something, but we didn't leave until 2 a.m. and we had the broadcast the next day, and we all woke up not feeling good. And that broadcast, if it exists somewhere, that's one of those where you power through. You just you do what needs to be done to get the job done. You don't make excuses. It doesn't matter that everybody on the broadcast at some point had to step away to throw up in a trash can, Pat. That doesn't matter. We're getting through this broadcast. And that literally did happen at one point where it's why are we just stuck on the high 50 camera? Why haven't we switched off the camera? Oh, the guy running the switcher, he was away for a bit. Why is Jason doing play-by-play? Oh, because he was over in the corner over there in the little bucket that they had up there for trash. So I could go a lot more in depth, but I kind of want to protect the names of the innocent because I'm doing this show. Everybody else has moved on to real jobs, so we won't mention any names, but everybody knows who was on the broadcast. But it was, I at one point I went home before everybody else, and I was laying in my bed, and one of my coworkers busted through the room, jumps on top of me, is straddling top of me, and goes, "Wake up, bitch." And he just slaps me and then does it again. And I'm like, dude, go to bed. And he just goes, okay, and crashes. And mind you, is now sleeping in the bed next to me because we were sleeping 4 people to a room. So
yeah,
all for the love of the NAIA, man.
Playing guilty. So the real question was this a cheap excuse to get drunk, or was it you're so upset you didn't get the recognition that you thought you deserved?
Cheap
really
excuse.
Kind of sparked the whole thing. Well, yeah,
cheap excuse. It was late in the season. We hadn't done that really at any of our other trips, and it was kind of one of those late in the season. Hey, we're actually, this game's at, I don't know, I think it was at 1:00 in the afternoon. It'll be done by 4 or 5. We'll actually be home by midnight on Saturday, which would be early for us. So we were screw it, we're doing it. We're doing this, and
yeah,
it was a cheap excuse, but that was the spark. That was the the little match that made it go, okay.
Yeah, late in the year, it's a long year. Believe me, I've been there, no question. Don't need a lot of reasons to tie one on if you got drinks that are available. Anyway, so I got to finish my story from last week. Not to.
Okay.
I didn't hit the whole. So the baby powder story. And it's like, the baby powder. It's like, what are you talking about, you weirdo?
Baby powder.
So during COVID, if you remember, Jason, there's no fall season to fall 2020, right?
Yep.
Went into the spring. Okay. So, and again, I mentioned we are fortunate to be in Fort Wayne. We have indoor facilities around our community. So camp started in January, the second semester. So we came back to school the second semester. We are essentially in 2-a-day camp in January in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where the average temperature, Jason, is probably about a blustery 24 degrees in the month of January. That's the average.
Real nice.
Okay.
Yep.
A lot of snow, whatever. Okay. So you better find someplace indoors to practice to get ready for your spring season. That still may or may not happen. Anyway, for the love of the NAIA, we would go at, I'm not joking you, we had to start practice at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. in a basically an indoor soccer facility in the community of Fort Wayne.
Bubble, like
it's like a bubble, yeah, like the
bubble.
Like upside down bowl thing. It's a bubble thing, yeah. It's like inflated in the whole 9 yards, right? And it's big. It's probably 75, 80 yards. It's sufficient. I mean, there's flag football and things like that. It's a nice facility, okay? But they have soccer lines down. Do not have football lines. And and those that know football to some level, landmarks are very, very important for football, especially offensive execution. You have to have, hash marks and numbers for alignments and landmarks and yardage and things of that nature. Well, this club that owns the soccer club would not let us put paint down for, yard lines and hashes and numbers. I had to go get baby powder at every Dollar General, every drugstore, every Walmart in the Fort Wayne metropolitan area, because it takes to do a field. I did this daily, Jason. So I reported to the facility at 4 a.m. Mind you, our players are showing up like at 4:30. We have to take their temperature during COVID to make sure they weren't running a temperature to be able to go in the facility for contact tracing, right? We had to do all that. So before that, I had to make sure we got the hash marks, the sidelines, and the numbers all talcum powdered for at least for perimeter, for 7-on-7. I mean, literally, this is what we did for the love of the NAIA. I mean, I would do this every single morning in the 4 o'clock hour with like GAs, and it's me, the guy calling the plays, and we're out there doing this. We have the stringer out there, and we're doing this with baby powder. I mean, I had plastic bags of literally, containers of baby powder. I don't know what the ounces, like a 16-ounce container of baby powder. And I'm literally dousing it. It's only good for that practice. I mean, it's done after that. Did this every single day in the month of January, early February, getting ready for the season that may or may not start in March. And then we transitioned to going outside after that to our field where we're taking our personal snow blowers and blowing off the field from 8 inches of snow. Talk about love of the NAIA, Jason. During COVID in a winter season was for the love of the NAIA, because that was miserable.
That sounds miserable. I in my mind, like a 16 or 32 ounce bottle of baby powder. It's like, how many hash marks does that get a guy?
Dude, I had to have at least 12 a day, at least that. And wow. I usually had more than that. I made like 2 bagfuls. The funniest thing is, can you imagine me at this time? I'm 40 years old, or wherever I am. I'm going into every single Dollar General in this entire city. And I was like, where is your baby powder? Do you have more coming? And this lady's like, look at me like, what's this guy's deal? Like, she's like, you just bought 25, containers of baby powder, and you're asking when your next shipment's coming in. Like, it's bizarre. And I had explained, of course, hey, I'm at St. Francis. We're inside for COVID, playing a season this year. It's obviously winter. You explain it all, but they're looking at you like, what's this guy's deal? So yeah, it was entertaining. I mean, literally after practice every morning, Jason, after I had my meetings and things like that, it was driving around town looking for talcum powder. So I did. It was fun.
Insane.
The love of the NAIA.
For the love of the NAIA, what I would have done is, after about the 14th time I got asked that question, I would have been like, we're hearing it's a cure for COVID. And then, but that would have been bad, because then everybody else would have like started. Did you hear? All of a sudden, Fort Wayne local news, new cure for COVID has been found. They're saying baby powder, because back then, like, that's what we were. It was like, oh, wash our hands. Oh, drink bleach. I don't know. Right, I just existed and went to work.
So miserable.
I was exempt. Miserable. I was one of those exempt workers because I work in ag. So there was like no change whatsoever in my life. It was just like, hey, don't sit in somebody else's office, and maybe tell the customers to stay over there.
Contact trace every day. Contract tracing questions every single day with players.
No, thank you.
To me, like, that can start a whole show of the things that we all had to do to have a football season the spring of 2021. It was insane. With
your story and my story, hey, we don't Pat and I can tell our stories all day. We want to hear yours.
Absolutely.
Email us, mail@victorysportsnetwork.com. Going to stay anonymous. If you just say, hey, keep this anonymous. DM me on X, Twitter, whatever. Give me your story. We definitely want to hear it. We want to share these stories here because it's just fun, especially if you're a couple years removed, to look back and go, yes, I remember that now. That was a good time. So
tell us your best projectile vomit stories, like Jason.
Yes. Tell us how everybody was puking. Yeah. I've got one that off air I'll tell you about. And hold on, what we were just talking about, projectile vomiting, put that aside. What I'm about to say now has zero to do with that, okay? Because I don't want to incriminate one of the greatest football coaches of all time, but I do have a For the Love of the NAI story with your dad.
I have many.
I bet.
Yeah,
I would bet.
He's a legend in more ways than one. So,
all right, I think that's going to wrap things up for the show here tonight. Anything, Pat, as we head into next week? We got some great games. We've got some awesome top 25 matchups coming up here that we were just talking about. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Rolling right along. This has been a great season. Here we are getting in October, and the games and the implications for league now. The leagues are coming down the pike here. So big week upcoming. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. A lot of great football to be played. A lot of great games this week. And there's always ones that pop onto our radar where we go, wow, we didn't even talk about that. We're definitely talking about it on next week's show. So as always, we take your emails, your comments, your questions, send them our way. The more interactive we are, the more fun that Pat and I have. We certainly appreciate everybody that checks out this show each and every week. We love you guys. It's been a heck of a ride coming back into this, and you guys certainly make it fun. For Pat Donley, I'm Jason Dannelly. This is NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley from the Victory Sports Network. Top 25 out tomorrow morning. Chips picks on Tuesday. And the Around the Nation article coming your way Wednesday on victorysportsnetwork.com. Get on out there. Enjoy some NAIA football, everybody. Have a great week.